Said it yourself, bitch. We're the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Deadpool. Captain Deadpool. No, just Deadpool, yeah.
Superhero franchises traditionally start with the hero's origin story in the first movie, showing how a mild-mannered nobody like Clark Kent or Peter Parker get transformed into a courageous hero that their entire city looks up to. These origin movies are, by their very nature, not very rewatchable. The protagonist doesn't get their superpowers or don their cape until the end of the first act, sometimes not even until the midpoint, so there's not much action, and the origin stories often follow the beats of the same tired formula. The sequels, on the other hand, are much more rewatchable. X2, Spider-Man 2, The Dark Knight, The Winter Soldier. With the origin story out of the way, the sequels can just jump straight into the action, with the hero already established and a budding new villain on the horizon. But there are some superhero origin films that warrant more rewatches than others. There's a finite number of times you can revisit Shazam or Captain America the First Avenger, but for every Eternals, there's a Batman Begins or an Into the Spider-Verse. Before we begin the list proper, I have a few honourable mentions. Sam Raimi's Spider-Man created the template for the modern superhero origin movie, and not only does it perfectly capture the essence of Peter Parker's character, it tells his origin story with so much energy and liveliness that it holds up to repeat viewings. Patty Jenkins' Wonder Woman brushes over the actual origin story in a brief prologue. The film is more of a character study of Diana than a traditional origin story. It's a fish-out-of-water culture clash story about Diana's noble Amazonian values clashing with humanity's corrupted values. Captain Marvel shook up the familiar superhero origin formula with a non-linear story structure, as its amnesiac protagonist slowly pieces together her own past from fragmented memories. X-Men First Class filled in the backstory of Professor X and Magneto's former friendship after years of movies where they were mortal enemies, and mixed the real-world history of the Cuban Missile Crisis into its comic book action for a totally unique storyline. Now, on with the actual list.
I know, right? Whose balls did I have to fondle to get my very own movie? I can't tell you, but it does rhyme with pulverine.
The first Deadpool movie is more rewatchable than the average superhero origin film because of its inventive structure. It cuts back and forth between a formulaic origin story punched up with self-aware wit and a present-day hero versus villain storyline. Just when you're starting to get bored with the tired beats of a superhero origin story, the movie cuts back to a fully fledged Deadpool on the hunt for Francis. There's also a much simpler reason Deadpool is so rewatchable. It's a comedy above all. There's plenty of superhero action, but it's the fourth wall breaking humor that defines the film. And comedies are just inherently rewatchable because a good joke never gets old. Airplane, Anchorman, Life of Brian, Young Frankenstein, Beverly Hills Cop, there's no limit to the number of times you can rewatch a good comedy.
What the hell are you?
Christopher Nolan explored Batman's origins in more depth than ever before in Batman Begins. Previous versions of the Bat's origin story had shown his parents being murdered in Crime Alley, and then skipped right ahead to his career as a caped crusader. But there's a lot missing from those versions of the story. How did he choose the Bat motif? How did he become such a good fighter? How did he pick the Batcave as his underground base of operations? Where did all his high-tech gadgets come from? Nolan fleshes out Bruce's childhood fear of bats, his training with the League of Shadows, the giant cave under his vast property, and his covert working relationship with Lucius Fox. Most of the rewatchable superhero origin films succeed because they get through the origin story as quickly as possible. But Batman Begins succeeds precisely because it extrapolates the origin story in much more detail than its predecessors.
The truth is, I am Iron Man.
The very first installment in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Jon Favreau's Iron Man, still ranks as one of its best movies. If Iron Man wasn't so damn great, the MCU might not have had the longevity it's enjoyed for the past decade and a half. Iron Man is a fine superhero film, but it goes above and beyond for one reason: Robert Downey Jr.'s transcendent, career-defining turn as Tony Stark. Thanks to the ad-libbed Hawksian interplay between Downey and his capable straight man Gwyneth Paltrow, Iron Man has a snappiness and a spontaneity to it that's missing from most stiffly scripted superhero fare. That improvisational looseness, not to mention Favreau's razor-sharp direction without an ounce of fat in the edit, makes the film endlessly rewatchable.
How's that?
Easy, miss. I've got you.
You've got me! Who's got you?
Richard Donner's original Superman movie, the movie that first proved the blockbuster potential of the superhero genre, still holds up as one of the genre's finest entries. The tagline for Superman read, "You'll believe a man can fly," and that doesn't quite hold true today. The effects haven't aged particularly well, but just about everything else in the movie still holds up. Christopher Reeve's spot-on turn as goody two-shoes All-American Boy Scout Clark Kent, his endearing screwball dynamic with Margot Kidder's Lois Lane, the bright, colourful aesthetic matching Supes' aw shucks personality, and the finale with sky-high stakes where the strongest man on Earth comes face-to-face with failure. As more and more modern superhero films crash and burn, Donner's Superman is still there to show them how it's done.
Alright people, let's do this one last time.
In addition to being one of the greatest animated movies ever made, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is a completely fresh telling of the traditional superhero origin story. No other cinematic superhero was mentored by a bunch of multiversal variants of themselves. Miles Morales gets a crash course in being Spider-Man from a merry band of interdimensional spider people yanked from different universes. Into the Spider-Verse functions simultaneously as an origin story for Miles and an end-of-the-road, not sure I have it in me anymore story for a depressed, middle-aged Peter Parker. Just as Peter has to teach Miles how to be an effective Spider-Man, Miles has to inspire Peter not to give up. There isn't a dull moment in Into the Spider-Verse. It's a dazzling, action-packed superhero adventure with plenty of emotion to boot. And the leap of faith moment is one of the purest, most awe-inspiring moments in cinema history.
That's all it is, Miles. A leap of faith.
Like, what's up, danger? Like, what's up, danger?
Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you liked the video. Remember to like and subscribe and click on the little bell. And also seize the day and call your mom and be kind to yourself.